All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Mike Raines here with Remax Terrasol. Yeah, I do have a fraternal brother. I'm 2 minutes older than him, and we don't even look like distant cousins. Like literally, I could put him right here, and you would never guess that he's even in the family. So, but yeah, we're close. My sister lives down in Mission Viejo, so I've got all the family local here and things like that. And yeah, I've been in business since 2001. I started on the loan side of things, and that's helped me greatly in my real estate business. As a listing agent, I'm able to interview and check in with the other agents, talk about their clients, and help find my client, the seller, the best person that's able to close. Because it's not always about like the highest offer, it's about that, and it's about who can get to the finish line intact. And in this market, I'm going to share with you, that's going to be a very important aspect because you don't want to fall out of escrow at this time of the year. Because the wind has changed directions a little bit. I told you a couple of weeks ago about how things were changing and how the big R word, remember we talked about recession, and how that's not a bad thing actually. We need to have those steam let off. It's like a pot. And if you don't let some steam off, it gets crazy and then it blows up. And if you remember 2007 and 8 and 9 and 10, that was a blow up. And there was many reasons for that, but one of them was that they didn't allow the economy to have any kind of a recession that would take that steam off. They kept kicking the can down the road for various reasons. They came up with the liar loans and all of the things that kept that just red hot. I mean, it was overdone, and everybody knew this isn't going to end well. They just didn't know how severe it was going to be. This time, things are definitely different. People that have bought homes have been putting 20, 30, 50% down. There were still a lot of cash buyers, and so the market is definitely in a much healthier position to be able to kind of go into this period where the interest rates are risen. So what I thought I would do today is be able to give you kind of a 4-point market update. We're going to talk about what are the current market conditions in the market right now. We're going to look at what's driving the demand changes. We're also going to look at what those changes look like in the market. So how's that translating over into the marketplace? And then what do sellers need to understand in this new environment? Because as things change, as a good realtor, you have to set the proper expectations, and that's going to be a key going forward. So with the market conditions for Orange County, so these things are about just this market. As I've said to a lot of people, real estate is local, so what applies here does not necessarily apply in the Inland Empire or the state of New York or Florida or Texas or any of the other ones. So right now the active listings are on the rise. So many of you have heard me complain about the lack of inventory. We still have a lack of inventory, but it is starting to rise. Right now, finally, we have 245 new home listings since 2 weeks ago. So the active total inventory has risen by 245 new homes. Inventory is now 2697, and so that's in all of Orange County. So just to let you know, like at the height of the recession, it was 13,000. So that's the other end of the scale. So 2697 still, that's not a lot of homes. That's all of Orange County. So if you want to buy a house anywhere, whether it's a condo, townhome, senior housing, or single family residence, that's still not a lot. So the number of pending homes in escrow decreased by 66 homes to 2113. And you'll notice that that's actually for the first time, if you've been watching any of my updates along the way every 2 weeks on YouTube, that's now below this number. Before, we would have more in escrow than we would have homes available for sale, which is crazy that you're blowing through the inventory so fast that you have more in escrow. And the last thing is the expected market time. So these are the conditions of the market. The expected market time has been on the rise as well. We're now averaging 38 days overall, that's still great. So just so you know, 35 days for homes 750 to $1 million, and 24 days for homes that are under 750. This number 24 was 14 before. So it was red hot. Now it's just hot. Still, I mean, it's moving pretty fast. But just to let you know, about 60 days is where the benchmark moves from a red hot seller's market to just a seller's market. And when you get over that, you start getting into the buyer territory. So what's going on for demand decline? So the drivers of that, you guys know what they are. Who's gone and filled up lately? You know, depending on the size of your tank, I filled up my wife's SUV, and it was $125 to fill that. That used to be like half of that. So that's going up, food's going up, and they're telling us that most of the supply chain stuff is still coming as far as the food goes. So we're going to see more of that inflationary pressure. The other factors, as John would tell you if he was here, is the mortgage rates have been on the rise, and it's up 2% from the beginning of the year. So we're now floating right around a 5.25% rate for a 30-year fix. And just how that translates is that 2% on an average loan amount of $640 is $743 per month of the difference in payment. So what's happening is some buyers, they can't absorb that, and so they've kind of like, I'm out. So, and that's decreasing the demand, and in fact, that's what the Fed says that their goal is, demand destruction, so they're allowing this stuff to happen. In fact, they had pushed it down in the first place. So they had artificially pushed down. How many of you guys refinanced it like a 2.5 or 2.75? I was one of them. Cheapest money you'll ever find. And so right now at that 5.25, which historically that's actually a good rate.
It's pretty good.
But because of those low rates, the prices have been elevated. And so demand has decreased for buying these for those reasons on that. So our next thing that we're looking at is how has this affected the actual market today. So when you look at homes, now all of a sudden homes are sitting on the market, and some people, I had a client call yesterday that had been out of the area, and they're like, my home's been on the market for 16 days, what's going on? I'm like, you need to just wait a little bit longer because, you know, things are taking a little bit longer to sell. And so after the conversation, they're like, oh, I'm so glad that we talked. You know, it's like, hey, I didn't get any offers this weekend. And that used to be the case where you'd launch it on Wednesday, you'd have the open house on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then by Tuesday you'd have like 12 offers. And if you weren't in escrow by the next Wednesday, something was wrong. Now it's like, look, just the market is taking a little bit longer, and overpriced homes are definitely sitting on, and that's led to the second one, which some of those homes have actually started to make price reductions. So that's what we're seeing out there is prices are starting to come down. Some sellers that are unrealistic to start with, those guys are just sitting on the market. They're like 120 days. So the number of pending home sales is the other thing that we're seeing, and that's the homes that are in escrow. They're down year over year, and the lowest level for this time of the year. And that's an important part to understand is that we're talking about year over year this time of the year. They're down since 2007. So we're still selling homes. As we saw, there was like 2,117 homes in escrow. Homes are still selling, but because of the factor, low inventory, and we have higher interest rates, and we also have the market kind of changing, so buyers are slowing down. So the number of home sales in a month, the month of May, June, coming up here, so those are all changing. So those numbers are going to be lower. So our last thing is like, what does this translate over to like sellers? So I'm going to focus on the seller side because I think that's the important side right now. The buyers are starting to get wind of like, I might be a little bit more in control. So we're going to talk about that. So what a seller needs to know is that the homes have to be priced right to start with. So there is no like, let's throw it up here and see what happens. No, if you do that, you're just going to sit and you're going to chase it. So that's what's going to happen. If they miss it, they're definitely going to start with price reductions. The other thing that's going to matter is that buyers before had to take the homes completely as is, and they were dogs. So what's happening is that the buyers have a higher expectation. If they're going to pay the elevated prices that we have, they want to know that that house is in tip-top shape. So what that's going to translate, I recommend getting a pre-listing inspection, okay? That's going to be key for a seller to understand what their house actually needs to fix, because that's going to be another negotiation. Do a little painting, do a little recarpeting. So John's business should start picking up also as this market has changed. People are going to start like realizing before I put it on the market, I'm going to have to do a little touch-ups or even paint the house. The other thing is considering staging. Staging sells for 3 to 4% higher than homes that are not staged. That's statistically fact. So because when you walk in, people buy emotionally and then they justify logically. So buyers are expecting more bang for their buck, and rightly so, because they've been punished for so long. That's one of the things. So be ready. That's why I'm telling seniors now or sellers now, you got to be ready for the second negotiation. If you're not going to do these things up here, then you're going to have to renegotiate, because that's what they're doing. They're still getting a little bit, instead of 10 offers, they're getting 2 or 3, but that buyer that wins is going to come back at you in the negotiations. When it does that, I've represented buyers lately, and we took the entire list. City will tell you, I took their entire list and just sent it over. And they did every single one of them both times. Because they know, and their agent's good, and telling them, hey, you're gonna have to do these things. If you fall out today, you can expect that you're gonna get a lower price. So work with these guys. If you don't, you're gonna pay more than what they're asking you in the first place. I'm never too busy for any of your referrals. And don't forget, you're invited to my barbecue on Sunday, June 26th. Flyers and details, win a barbecue for the 4th of July.